Hi everyone, it's Sean from STK Markets here today. We're with Mike Hudson from Southern Cross Gold, and it's set to be one of the biggest weeks for Southern Cross Gold on several fronts. Mike, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be back.
Mike, on Monday, you set the stage alight with another big step out under Apollo with a massive 4.5 kilos of gold. Some big intersections in that, some good width, some good grade, very good grade, actually very exciting. The Victoria government then the next day permitted two mines because they said Victoria was closed for business, but clearly it's not. And you've got some updates on that and how it affects us at Southern Cross. We've also got a vote this Friday on the moon. So a lot happening in Southern Cross this week, which is obviously always good news, and it's extremely good news with us. But Mike, do you just want to touch on a few of those things for us so we can just let investors know what's going on?
Well, we put out results a few days ago from Apollo, and there was 5 holes. As we know, Victorian epizonal systems, so that's the Fosterville, that's the Sunday Creek, get better at depth, and we'd seen that in our project at Sunday Creek, where part of the project called Rising Sun hit some extremely high grade results at depth as we went there, and that's what's sort of taken us through the year. Now, Apollo, we only really looked in the shallower parts. And when I say shallow, I mean sort of top 500 meters. And we're starting to explore deeper now. And we're seeing that area become much better at depth. So we had some incredible hits. I think we had the third best hit on the property that was half a meter at 2,444 grams a ton. That was incredible. That included that 4,000 gram hit or above 4,000 gram hit. Let's round down to the closest thousand. And then we saw 8 high grade veins. So it was 180 meters of mineralization when bulked together, went over 8 grams. But the key point was there was 8 very high grades through that whole zone. So some of the best, the third best hit on the property, the very best hit in Apollo ever, and it's getting better at depth.
That's unreal. So we're not at Rising Sun anymore. We had those other massive hits. We've shifted over and we're seeing that massive gold again at depth far away.
That's right. So it's a very encouraging trend and very encouraging hit and hits, a very broad zone of mineralization, 8 high grade hits, 5 of them were brand new. So they're new hits outside the exploration target and just getting better. And this project, we sound like a broken record, but it is just getting better.
One of the things I heard of, and I may be wrong, but Fosterville was in the size of a football field, that Swan, that the really high grade zone where they made a lot of money. You seem to, I mean, that's quite a bit further than a football field away at these depths. I mean, Sunday Creek's really turning it on in terms of what's happening down below, spaced far apart. So it is getting really exciting because we did want to compare ourselves to Fosterville or hope to get like Fosterville in the beginning. And it could even get better with all the drilling results that we're getting at the moment.
Well, we are certainly all the same system. They form together. They get better at depth. The antimony's at the top, and the antimony tends to drop off, and the same geology of why they get better occurs. But their local situation is all different. And I'm talking about all the epizonal deposits, and this one will be potentially mined. The other two are mined, and they'll have slightly different mining methods because of their different situation and how they form in the ground, orientation-wise mainly. But at every level, we're very similar in many respects to Fosterville in terms of the width of the veins, the grade and nature of the veins, and the footprint even over 12 kilometers is very similar, that bigger area. So there's a lot of things you can say are very similar, definitely the geology and the style, and then you can get into the weeds and talk about how they're slightly different too.
Well, it's just a testament to your team. You know the geology, you understand where the system's getting. Each drill result is getting bigger, 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 it looks like. You're constantly hitting gold. One of the things you have to hit, though, which on Tuesday this week, is a mining permit. You've got to mine. I know there's a lot of people out there saying that you can't do business in Victoria in terms of mining, and they all say WA is the place to go. But what happened this week of real significance that's really changed the tide with mining in Victoria?
No, so just to be clear, there was 2 mines permitted in Victoria. They were 2 mineral sands mines, but they are the 2 mineral sands mines that have seen a permit for the first time in 20 years. So Absolutely, Victoria's been great in the past, and it's been variably challenging. And it depends where you are in the state. And there's 5 mines operating, but there's nothing that states we're open for business more so than we're permitting projects. And 2 mines were permitted the first time in decades this week, and that came after a strategic critical minerals roadmap that the government put out, where they started talking about many things. But the key thing for me was streamlining their planning decisions. So it's not that they're just permitting things. They're streamlining their planning, where they're going down with the environmental effects statement. For example, it's taken up to 3 years or more for projects. They're putting an 18-month limit on that, for example, as one of many things. So they're making strategic areas in the state for critical metals, for rare earths and for antimony. They're bringing in governance around critical metals. They want to get down into the midstream processing. So even the Premier came out and said, we're open for business. This is a highly positive statement by the government. And then they backed it up the day after by permitting those 2 mines. So it doesn't really get better than that. And permitting in Victoria was one of the things that we always hear as a little bit of pushback on our project. And that's just a huge tick for people who had those concerns.
You're talking areas where they will permit. Now, let's just face the facts. Fosterville, Costerfield, Nagambie are 3 mines which are in almost walking distance from Sunday Creek, where the huge deposit, the huge discovery is going. So one would think, all things being equal, it's just a seamless progression that Sunday Creek will get permitted too with these new changes that have come into effect.
Well, I can't say things like you've just said, Sean, and trying to put those words in my mouth, but it is a very positive move without a doubt. And the state has openly said that Sunday Creek ticks all the boxes to gain their full support, and that's through an approvals coordinator that they brought in, and it's been very successful. So no doubt our critical metal component, the 20% in situ value is antimony, is a huge part of that support, because we will be one of the larger Western world antimony resources when we get to putting our resource out. But if you just do the simple maths now, you can see where it's heading. So it's a very significant antimony project, but 80% of it, of the value of the rock, comes from the gold. So gold will pay for it, antimony will help permit it.
It's a fantastic week, Mike. You've had the gold, you've got the permitting risk decreasing. So obviously more discovery reduces risk, permitting reduces risk. You've got a vote this Friday on the merge of Mawson and Southern Cross Gold. Can we talk to that? I've already said I've voted for it. A lot of my investors have voted for it. A lot of the larger investors are voting for it. Can you just talk to what it means for Southern Cross, this merge, and the benefits of the company moving forward?
Yeah, it's rather simple. It's a complex process we're going through to go through a scheme of arrangement to join Mawson, which owns 48.6% of Southern Cross's shares, and Southern Cross itself. But the simple story is we're going to bring them together. 100% of Sunday Creek will be owned by one company. That one company will be dual listed on both the ASX and the TSX-V. So it will bring a lot more eyes. It will simplify a very complicated structure today that is, for some institutions was uninvestable. They'd say, well, we'll wait until you clean that up. So more eyes to the stock. A very enthusiastic investor group, because they benefited from Fosterville and the $10 billion of market cap that was made out of the Fosterville discovery. Now we'll have an opportunity to invest 100% rather than just in a company that owns shares, that North American market. So, and we'll keep our great shareholders here. They won't have a gap in trading. They'll have a Southern Cross share one day, a CDI in the new Southern Cross Gold Consolidated that Mawson's changing its name to. So we think, a simplification, consolidation, dual listing.
And you've still got the A team involved. I mean, you're staying involved. You've got the board staying involved, and you've got your key GS staying involved. There's no real change. It's the same market cap, just a different structure, but the same shares on issue.
One thing we should say, just because it's a little bit confusing, it's a good point you bring up, is that Mawson is consolidating its number of shares that it has outstanding to the number of shares it owns in Southern Cross. So it's got 300 odd million shares today. It owns 96 million shares of Southern Cross. So it will just come down by 1/3 basically to that 96 million shares. So the value of a Mawson share will be fully reflective of every share it owns of Southern Cross, which is essentially a one-for-one offer to Southern Cross shareholders. The structure of Southern Cross Gold Consolidated will be exactly the same as it is today in terms of the number of shares outstanding. It will trade at a similar price where it's trading today. So it's only the market fluctuations. There's going to be no change in the number of shares outstanding. So that the price will trade according to that. It's a one-for-one. And the vote is this Friday, as you mentioned, at 11 p.m. Melbourne time. Voting closed today, unless you turn up to the meeting. You can vote there, but external voting closed today at 11 o'clock, 2 days before the meeting. After that, let's see where the voting goes in terms of the shareholders having a say on the scheme. If there's a positive vote, and that's 75% by number and 50% by shareholders, in mid-January, because we're hitting Christmas now, the scheme will complete and the merge will take place. And then for the second 2 weeks of January, there'll be some deferred settlement as all the shares are moved around. And then by the end of January, everything's back to normal, consolidated, simple, dual listed.
Okay, Mike, thanks for that. It's a lot of information today. We've got 3 major things happening with Southern Cross. More gold, Victoria's changing for the better, and this consolidation of the 2 companies with the merge. It all looks very promising. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, Sean, corporately, very sensible moves are taking place. The project continues to deliver, and the state is giving us the biggest signals that we've seen in decades. So it's all very good times.
And there's still more results in the lab waiting. So as always, more news flow coming.
Always, not closing down over Christmas.
Oh, fantastic. Mike, thanks a lot for your time. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's Sean. I've just spoke to Mike Hudson. We've now got Tom Davidson, who is the CEO of ACDC Metals. Again, ACDC is in Victoria. This is a massive day for mineral sands, which lo and behold, ACDC is into as well. Tom, this is a massive move today or this week with Victoria, and for yourselves, you've just had an update of JORC. You've had this big announcement with what's happening in Victoria, mate. It's big times, good times for ACDC. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, hi, Sean. Yeah, exactly. It's been a big week this week with the critical minerals roadmap out earlier in the week, which really sort of bolstered and showed the support of the government to push into the critical minerals. And you can see on the map that they've got within that, they've identified the key projects, and our Goschen Central project is one of those very projects they've identified. And as you just mentioned, last week we released the resource update. So it really puts us in a strong position, and we're amongst some strong peers that just received their environmental approvals yesterday. So that's VHM with the Goschen project. So they're just to the northeast of us, and then to the southwest is the Avonbank, so WIM Resources project. And so the approval for us, it really helps validate the flow sheet, the work that those guys went through with the environmental effect statements. They have to get independent panels in. They go through the flow sheet. They go through the methodology of mining, waste management, transportation of materials. So they've gone through, and independent review panels have gone through and validated all this, and then the government has given the tick of approval. So it really bolsters the path we're going down with our scoping study and how we're developing the flow sheet, that we know it's a dependable project with those key parameters. And it also removes that very first question that you get from investors as well about Victoria. Is it open for investment? Is it open for mining? And that's really the big, the vote that we're excited to be sharing with everyone. These first approvals since, I think, 2008 was the last one. So it's really exciting news.
I'll tell you what, as a shareholder, which we are, it's very good to see these approvals come through, because it has been a hard ride since the shares come onto the market. And I do think it has been some pivotal moments. The company's delivered on everything it's meant to have done. We did the drilling, got successful results. We did our first JORC, upgraded JORC. You've now got a scoping study coming. There'll be another upgraded JORC just to get the the grade up. I think you're well on the way. And when you mentioned you've got these independent parties that have done these reports to get these permits, there's not many groups in the marketplace that you can use. So I think from previous conversations, you're using similar parties to get to that end result, aren't you?
Yeah, right. So yeah, we're with our scoping study and with the engineering consultants, environmental consultants, we're all utilising the same resources, and so we're not having to recreate and reinvent the wheel each time. These guys have gone down the various paths and worked out the one that will tick the box from a permitting point of view and produce an economic project that benefits investors, shareholders, and the company. So yeah, these guys are a well-trodden path, and it's exciting. Where this is going to go to next.
It's really, really good because it's just almost like Control C, Control V. A lot of the risk has been eliminated for ACDC virtually overnight.
Yeah, that's right. It really just it was these unanswered questions about, can we do this way? It's been a long time since there was a mineral sands mine in Victoria. Maluka's one, I think, closing in 2016. And that was more of the strand type. So these WIM styles haven't gone through that process before. So it's really exciting and really answers a lot of those questions, and should be an exciting next 6 months in the industry with lots of news and development, still more to come.
I know my team, the guys I work with, have been buying more shares in ACDC. It is at a reduced rate at the moment, so we do see some upside there. So we are long the stock, PA, and all the team is long. I can't believe it, Tom. We've been waiting for this for quite some time. It's a bit surreal, really.
It's been we've been talking about it for a long time, and this sort of being identified as a real catalyst that should hopefully get the region and the industry and show that these projects are meaningful projects. They have strong revenues and really strong fundamentals for these projects and why they should proceed. You can see from the critical minerals roadmap that it supports, ticks a lot of boxes from the government's point of view. And so, yeah, the benefits for the regions and the state is going to be massive.
Listen, I'm really excited. It does look really good. So one of the key things you've said, you're in that region where they said they want to permit mines. You're in that area. That's one of the things Mike touched on, because where Southern Cross is, it's right next to Fosterville, Costerfield, Nagambie, existing permitted mines. So where your project is, because all locations are different in Victoria, obviously not all of them are wanting to be developed, but where your project is, it's in that window as well, isn't it, or that area, or that catchment.
Yeah. Exactly. We're right in that Mallee region. We're right next door to VHM. So the project that got approved yesterday, and Avonbank is a bit more towards Wimmera, towards Horsham, but we're right in that identified area of critical minerals space, and the government has shown their support behind these projects.
One of the things we touched on in our last conversation was that you're looking at a 5% grade. When's the drilling program starting, and when do you expect to get those results coming through that gives a bit of an indication of how that's looking?
Yeah, so for our field work, we're going through the planning at the moment. With the resource update that we've just released, we are planning on doing some further mineralogy work as well. So we're going along collecting more composite samples, sending that off to the lab to really bolster up the assemblage. But obviously you can see from that resource announcement that we made, there was a clear zone that we need to go and target again. So we were looking to try and hit that at Q1, Q2. We have to work through our compensation agreements and getting access onto the land for those particular zones. But it's really encouraging time. In the next 12 months, we'll be back out there drilling and getting more assays.
I think those assays are crucial to another re-rating. We've already had a lot happening with ACDC, so I think the quicker we get those out, the better. And we see this share price really continue to start moving. It's getting some liquidity in the share at the moment. I notice the volumes are increasing, and I dare say as more and more people see that Victoria is open for business and they see the business continuing to perform in the way that you've said at the IPO and the prospectus, like you have delivered, I potentially see a lot of upside. So exciting times ahead, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. And the scoping study will be out early next year, and then we can really economically benchmark against those projects that just received their approvals and we're going through their financing steps now. So we can then really look to be able to see the benefits and of the Goschen Central project.
It's just really, really fortunate that you've got these projects right next door. You've got the same engineers and whatnot working on your scoping studies and feasibility studies. They've already knowing what to do. It's like they've done all the heavy lifting for you.
Well, yeah, then there's been lots of met test work and advancements in the industry over the last decade or so, and so yeah, so WIM and Astron and VHM, they spent lots of time in the lab and fine tuning the flow sheet. So yeah, we really are able to just sort of go in there and just with a few key characteristic bits of test work, we can apply the same flow sheet. So yeah, it's really
It's like getting a six-pack without doing the sit-ups.
yeah.
All right, Tom. All right, mate. Now, listen, I've had a long day. I know you have too. You've got to get to your next meeting because it is a very important week for Victoria. So congratulations again. These permits were key to the de-risking nature of the business, and you're in that catchment. I think a lot of shareholders don't really understand yet or may not have seen the value of what these permits mean to ACDC.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, for the whole industry, and like you would have spoken with Southern Cross earlier, that it really just is a big vote for the region and for the state and interstaters when they're looking to invest in mining projects. That hurdle was then now been removed, and we don't need to get caught up on that discussion of is Victoria open for investment. They definitely are, and that's the message that's coming loud and clear from the department.
We'll go enjoy a cracker. So thanks, Tom. We'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thanks, Sean, for the support.